Hi everyone, it's me Grace. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So yes, I cut my hair. I know, big shock. I just wanted something different, to be honest. That's why I did it. I think it looks cute. But anyway, we're not talking. This video is not about my hair. This video is a video to help you with Chinese pronunciation, more specifically the tones. So I learned Cantonese and Mandarin which has 4 tones, and Cantonese which has 6. And I think I've gotten a good grasp on them now, but definitely at the beginning of my studies, the tones are definitely the hardest part, at least in my opinion. It's so hard to get used to this tonal system. Every single word that you learn, you have to remember, has a tone. And if you use the wrong tone, you might change the meaning, for example, right? Especially since English is not a tonal language. So I wanted to come here and actually share with you guys some tips that they don't immediately tell you, that you might not actually know. And somebody actually commented about this, which is what inspired me to make the video, because it's not something that I actually was explicitly told. It was something that I had to figure out myself. So I want to share it with you guys, because if you're learning Mandarin, for example, there's literally probably hundreds of videos on YouTube teaching you the tones, right? Since, you know, Mandarin Chinese is a very popular language to learn, but each of them, they're kind of the same, and not all of them will go into a bit of depth when it comes to tone learning that I'm going to go into today. So somebody actually commented on my video and they told me, they were like, Grace, you know, I'm practicing these tones and it's actually straining my voice. You know, is that normal? And I was like, no, that is not normal. If you're practicing the tones, you know, speaking Mandarin or Cantonese should not hurt. Like, it shouldn't hurt. And once she said that, I immediately knew why. I immediately knew what was happening, because it was actually something that I went through as well. When we're learning, we have to remember that tones are relative to our vocal ranges. You know, I always say, if you want to get your pronunciation to be really good, because people always ask me, oh Grace, how is your pronunciation so accurate, right? And I always say, make sure you repeat after native speakers, like repeat after them and make sure you sound exactly like them. But I don't mean this literally. Like, for example, me, I have a relatively deep voice. You know, people love to point that out, but no, I have a relatively deep voice. And when I first started learning in Cantonese, you know, I would go on YouTube and a lot of the people that were teaching, like the women, for example, would have really high voices. So they would be like, hi everyone, today I'm going to teach you the tones, right? And they would be like, so these are the tones. Repeat after me, right? Ah, 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 ah. And for me, I would always try and copy them exactly like that. But obviously, I don't normally speak this high, right? So their first tone is like, and that's like really high to me. Obviously, it's not that high because I can't actually go that high, but their voices would be really high, and I would try and repeat after them, and I would actually strain my voice. And what you have to remember is your first tone might be different to somebody else's first tone. Do you know what I mean? Because they speak at different pitches. If you speak like this, then your first tone is probably going to be like, right? But if you speak at my pitch, it will be like, right? And if you speak even higher, it might be like, So as you can see, these are all first tones, but it all just depends on how you normally speak. First tone is a high flat tone, so it's high in your vocal range. If you normally speak really deep, then your first tone will probably sound quite deep, but that's because your voice is deep. Do you understand? So you shouldn't be trying to copy people exactly and trying to, you know, this is not voice acting. We're not mimicking them. We're taking what they're doing with their voice and we're doing it with our own. So that's something that, you know, you have to remember, because you might just watch a video and they might just say, okay, repeat after me. And then you repeat and you try and sound like exactly like them. You try and match like their pitch, but then that might be different to your pitch. Do you know what I mean? So just always remember that the tones are relative to your voice. First tone is a high flat tone, right? And then second tone is rising from mid to high. If your mid is really low, it's gonna go from like, it's going to start at a low place, right? Because that's how you normally speak. So just remember that. A lot of times in English, when we're trying to convey emotion, we'll change the tones of our words. For example, if I say, what are you doing, right? And I wanna sound more like, surprised, I'll be like, what are you doing? Do you know what I mean? So I'll kind of change from what are you doing to what are you doing? Like I'm changing the tone, right? With Chinese, you have to be careful because you can't just change the tone because that actually might change the meaning. For example, what are you doing in Cantonese is 你做緊咩?你做緊咩? Right? And if I try to be surprised, as a learner, a mistake you might make is 你做緊咩?你做緊咩? Like you might change it, but you've actually changed the tone of the word. And so you've messed it up a bit. 你做緊咩?你做緊咩? How you convey that emotion is what you have to do. You have to shift all the tones either upwards or downwards depending on what you're trying to say, right? So instead of saying 你做緊咩, I might say 你做緊咩? So I will make my whole voice become higher. And so what happens is the tones still maintain their movement. Like the tones are still there, but they're just at a higher pitch. So instead of thinking of tones as like a certain sound or a certain pitch, because that's going to sound different for everyone, try and think of it as like a rhythm. Do you know what I mean? So second tone is like this, first tone is like this. So I know those diagrams, those tonal diagrams are very useful, right? So try and think, okay, in this pitch, 你做緊咩? And then all I have to do is keep that same rhythm, but shift it up. 你做緊咩? So it's the same tones, but just a different pitch. So you have to be careful because this I actually find myself doing as well. When I get too excited or too emotional, I end up actually changing the tones of the words because that's what we do in English. But you have to be careful and make sure that you maintain those tones in Chinese. Now, this is not something that you have to think about at the beginning. At the beginning, you just want to learn how to get it right? But if you've grasped the tones, you're a bit more comfortable like me, then you can now think about, okay, how am I going to make myself sound more natural? How am I going to convey emotion so that I can speak naturally and I can speak freely, and joke and, make jokes and just be more expressive, right? So this is what you have to think about. I guess this is also why Chinese, more specifically Cantonese, has a lot of these tonal words because you can't really mess with the tone so much. So at the end of sentences, to show emotion, they will add words like lo, la, a, gua, ga, wo, these kind of words. And those words, depending on what word you use, that's going to change the whole feeling, the whole emotion of the sentence, right? So I guess that's kind of why they do it, why they have it so much, because it's this is how you convey your emotion instead of just making your whole voice sound really sing-songy, which is what we do in English. Anyway, I just wanted to share these tips, just some tips for you guys with learning pronunciation. Don't be straining your voice. Speaking another language should not hurt. And this is not something that you're always taught, because at the beginning, they just want to get you to, learn the tones, but they don't teach you, okay, this is actually how you should be saying them. So remember, when you're repeating after people, repeat after them, but don't mimic them. I mean, mimic them, yeah, but don't copy them exactly. Just kind of take what they're doing and but say it with your own voice, right? But I don't know if I'm making sense. I really hope I'm making sense. Yeah, I just wanted to help you guys, just share some tips. Let me know if you like this kind of video. It's just kind of a little tips, just kind of some tips, yeah, for Mandarin and for Cantonese, do you know what I mean? Let me know if you want to see more videos like this. Please let me know in the comments, because honestly, I don't really know what kind of videos you guys want to see. So definitely leave suggestions in the comments below. Like this video if you liked it, if you found it helpful. Share it to anybody who's learning Chinese, who's struggling with the tones, who could find it helpful. And also, if you want to support me, I'll leave my PayPal in the description below so you can donate and support me. Follow me on Instagram as well. And make sure to subscribe. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.